Yeah, my problem is like, is the final blow off of this storyline at Survivor Series? Because like this story has been like concurrent for however many years we've been doing this now. And like I said, we've gone from a tag to a 6-man tag to a War Games match. And it's like, is the final match War Games, or are they planning on dragging this out a bit further?
For me, it's definitely not the final stop of this journey. My reasoning for it is because I think either way, there is something to continue on after. Like you say, War Games can conclude the factions for the time being, but ultimately, this story continues until Roman becomes the tribal chief once again. And obviously, if you have the War Games match, we've still not had Roman versus Solo. That's not happened yet.
Sure.
Until we get Roman versus Solo, I don't think that this can conclude. And I think that still, I'm going to go on a level here and say that I think War Games, this is confirmed. This is pretty much the War Games match, like you said, 4-on-4. If you compare this to like Marvel, I would say that this is an end game. This is like Infinity War. We are going to build towards Endgame, and I think we got another year to go. Because if I had to paint a little picture, a little path of where I think we're going to go from here, I think we get to War Games. We've got a perfectly happily pinnable Tongaloa right there. He's sitting right there in this match. He can't be left out of this one. He will be the one that suffers the fate, suffers the fall. I think it'll be a Jey Uso and Roman Reigns moment at the end of it where they get the move done together and they get the combined victory over Tongaloa, and then boom, we can say, right, they can move on. Roman's next thing then would be about getting, thinking he needs to get that back, but perhaps maybe with the idea of, well, the Royal Rumble's in place. It's about main eventing WrestleMania as well. So Roman can start focusing about the Rumble match. So can Solo. I think they can cost each other. I think they build themselves to WrestleMania, whether it's Elimination Chamber or Mania. For my Mania predictions card, I have them two at Mania for who is the real tribal chief. I would have Roman Reigns win that match. And I think secretly, that's when we learn after WrestleMania that it was not Solo who was the head of the table after Raw, and that it's actually The Rock who's been leading the charge. Rock is going to get these other guys to kick Solo out. Rock is going to come in. I don't know if he's going to have another Fatu with him or Hikuleo, but I think that's when we see, let's say Hikuleo for fun right now. That's when we get Rock, Hikuleo, Jacob Fatu, and the Tonga twins against then the original Bloodline, which of course, like I say, is Roman Reigns, it's Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, Sami Zayn, and then someone who is to come crawling back to the group, Solo Sikoa, because he's been kicked out of this new group, and they have to find a way of him being back to what he was before, realizing he's not the tribal chief, making him realize he's humbled, he's above his own head, and has to get into that position of, right, okay, I screwed up, and look, I've created a monster here a little bit, and The Rock sort of talked me into this a little bit. I've messed up. And he has to work his way back into the family. Drag it out further than what you've done currently with Roman, Jey, and Jimmy, because that's been rushed. It's always been like Game of Thrones Season 7, and just getting everything straight in there rather than the long-term storytelling. However, I would say that this goes all the way to War Games next year, and then you have the new variations of these bloodlines, because after we've done Roman versus Solo, we can do Roman versus Jacob Fatu for SummerSlam, and then WrestleMania 42 is where, in my opinion, you do Roman versus Rock, and that's the true head of the table.
So let me ask you this: as long as we don't get Game of Thrones Season 8, I think we'll be okay. Does Solo need a world title run before those two have their match? Because for me, I think I don't know, because I don't think there's enough credibility to Solo. Yes, he's pinned him in a 6-man tag match, but I think if you put the longest reigning champion in modern era against Solo Sikoa, for me, that there's not enough build there for Solo. Solo's still missing something for me to be, do you know what I mean, for that match to actually be as important as it should be.
I think the reason that Solo is losing all these matches, that there is a reason for it. And I could be wrong, could be proven wrong in about 6 months' time, and he could still be with the new bloodline, and everything I've just said is a pure fantasy. But I go back to Bad Blood, and I remember looking in the ring, and there was a moment there where it was Jimmy Uso, Cody Rhodes, and Roman Reigns, and The Rock made that return, and he was doing the 1, 2, 3, and he needed that. I still look at that and say, yeah, it could have been the 3 people in the ring, but isn't it funny how Cody's sort of come away from this storyline now? And actually, perhaps maybe it was Solo Sikoa had lost for the 3rd time. It's like 1 strike, 2 strike, 3 strikes, you're out. Now, at this particular time, The Rock is not able there to come and deal with that business. And in the meantime, Solo's actually redeemed himself a little bit. He's got a pinfall victory over Roman Reigns. That's a big deal. As Cindy mentioned, it's a big deal to do that. Third person to do so under the tribal chief. He's extended his run. It's almost like if you want to just switch over to soccer, to football in the Premier League, you thought the manager was going to get sacked if he didn't win that game. But he won that last game, so he's bought himself a bit more time. It's that kind of feel for Solo Sikoa. He's bought himself more time. I think if he goes in as a world champion, I think it messes up with the storyline a little bit, because Solo, for me, he is painting himself to be something he's not. He's saying he is the tribal chief, but he's not. He's actually just... he doesn't fit the shoes. They're too big for his feet. And he's eventually going to trip over one time too many. And that's when he's going to get kicked out of the group. And that's when he has to stick the tail between the legs and say, do you know what? I was better as an enforcer. Because he's a bad dude. He wins a lot of matches, beats 6 former world champions. And that's when he goes back to the OG bloodline.
Okay, let me rephrase it then. If Solo doesn't go into this having won a world championship, for me then, it makes the result more predictable. Because it just be like, if you look at it on paper, you should be like, Roman wins that all day long. And I think at least if you put a world title reign behind him, or something, anything, I don't know what, just give him so it makes it almost a bit more what if. Like, I think that's the biggest problem for me, is that like it's predictable at the minute that if they do that match, you know Roman's winning it. Do you know what I mean? Like, and you're right. Everything you said, it probably is how the story is going to play out. But like, I want Solo to at least have a fighting chance, or like, I want there to be some sort of doubt when we get to that match. And it's kind of like, I don't know, there needs to be, Solo needs something to even just have like a 3% chance of winning that match.
Well, so far he's got a victory over Roman Reigns, and let's be honest, in that final end of the match, he technically beat Roman twice, because that was a botch. He had Roman beaten, and he kept him beaten, and he got the win. Yeah. If he continues to have Roman's number between now and WrestleMania, because Roman's on a journey himself. Yeah. Roman's on the journey right now, because Roman's having to almost realize that if he's going to have this OG bloodline around him, it's not all about him anymore. It's about unity. It's about everyone being equals, and he's actually still having to, and this is something that's really fun with Roman, he's not had a singles match since WrestleMania. Everything he's done is in the team, and technically, you know, the job got done at Bad Blood, yes, but it's not got done here. He's the one that let his team down. He's the one that got beaten. And if he goes into War Games, say they don't get on the same page, say that they lose, and say it's the new bloodline that wins again, there becomes a purpose all of a sudden that Roman Reigns has to find himself. Almost the tribal chief first needs to find the big dog, the guy that used to be able to beat 4 guys on his own. He's not that guy anymore. He relies on help all the time. And this is the thing, he can't get this job done. This is why he needs everybody back, because he can't do it on his own. If he's up against the new bloodline on his own, he loses. He got Jimmy. It wasn't enough. He's now got Jay. It's still not enough. Sammy's now the next key to this.
I was going to say, the only thing Roman's missing from that story is Vince McMahon booking him. No, dude, you're right. You're right. This will probably all pay off in the end. Like, I don't know, just like I said, I think for me with this match, and then obviously having them win at Bad Blood, like they should have lost at Bad Blood as well. I think if you're trying to do this to Roman, like they should have lost at Bad Blood as well, though.
I would have preferred they'd lost that, especially when we look in hindsight. At the time, I was like, you know, Mega Powers 2024, understand the Cody Roman, they're not going to lose. Solo had to be the fall guy. It's not going to be Jake Fatu that was going to lose at this point, because the guy still looks like a monster. You know, I go back to my childhood. I think of him as like, you know, if it was like a Power Rangers episode, that dude's lasting 3 episodes. Do you know what I mean? He's like one of the mega bosses. Do you know what I mean? Like, he ain't losing. So it's like, it's a lot for Jacobs, and Solo had to take the pinfall at that point. But I agree with you, and this was something that was desperately needed for Solo Sikoa to win on this match, on this turf, on this night. Had they have lost, I don't know how you get interest in a War Games match, but I feel now I've got more optimism at the end of this. And even if the match was, I'm going to go out and say it to start with, I'm going to say this match gets a 3-star rating from me, purely because of the storyline narrative. If we take the storyline narrative out of it, probably would go a bit lower. I'd probably go about 2.5. But I think the storyline narrative for me carries this match a little bit. I like the idea now for TV going forward. Is this old OG bloodline, are they going to coexist? I know sometimes we can say, oh, not that storyline again. But with this, the old cliche, but with this, it actually works. I think it works really well for this bloodline group, because they've been through so
4
much
years of building, and I wonder why.
Exactly. So all of a sudden you feel so I'm kind of invested to see where it goes. And we talked about this on the preview. I'm just going to mention it quickly. Kevin Owens was not happy with Cody aligning with them. He wasn't happy with Randy Orton potentially being aligned with Cody in the situation. Oh, he's not going to be happy with Sami Zayn. He's not going to be happy. And if they get over the Cody and Randy story before WrestleMania, that could be the WrestleMania match, you know.
You're the yin and yang of this conversation, really, because I'm looking at all the crappy points to it, and you're bringing all the positive points, and it really does help me sort of, do you know what I mean, open my mind up a bit more and kind of be a bit more excited about where this story's going, which is, do you know, it's one of the reasons why I like doing this, because otherwise I'd just be a depressed git all day long. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm quite happy that I've had this conversation now, because like I said, it re-emphasizes me and makes me more enthusiastic for what's going to happen. Like I said, it's just, like I said, it's the match quality itself and the results, like I said before. But that's it. I'm all done with that one now.
Absolutely. Well, for this show, it was a bit house showy, but all in all, it was not too bad.